Alright guys, hi, what's up? Yes, it's me. Yes, it's been a while, but I'm now finally back to do another discussion video. And in this video, I will be talking about disappointment, sadness, and utter shame. In other words, I will be talking about the masterpiece that people likes to rag about, Pixar's Brave. Yes, as many of us know, this movie lives in infamy amongst the highly iconic Pixar movies. Because if you do not know, this film came out in 2012, and up to this point, Pixar have been pretty consistent with delivering my masterpieces. Like the first 12 films or whatever order Brave comes up in is considered to be the golden age of Pixar. You know, at the time when Pixar had done really well in the theater with box office success as well as revenue. Yeah, there's nothing denying that Pixar was indeed hitting it hard and well with their animated movies. And then something came out, and then something happened after Toy Story 3. Now, I wouldn't really say it's because they became a bad studio. It's just that they dipped a bit in popularity and basically in popularity. Because here's the thing. Most of the films of the 2010s, up until I would say like Inside Out, they weren't really doing too hot. As a matter of fact, the Lone Dinosaur, the 20th. Okay, so I'm not really sure about what order, but basically, it took like Pixar until 20 years to actually get their first theatrical failure when it comes financially and in box office revenue. Now that's actually pretty impressive that it took 20 years for Pixar to release their first failure, given the fact that it took out Disney 1 year to release the very first failure, like with Fantasia, due to it being a bit too ambitious. So anyway, the last truly successful Pixar film, from the era that we remember, was Toy Story 3 in 2010. After that, they didn't really release anything major in 2011, but then they came back with vengeance in 2012 with everyone's, I'm just gonna introduce this. Brave. Now, when it comes to the film of Brave, it was actually a pretty decent idea, the idea behind this film was picked up in 2008 to have a Pixar movie with the relationship between a mother and a daughter. Now, that in itself can work decently well, given the fact that there aren't really that many movies out there that depicts the mother and daughter, in a direct conflictual way. And that was actually a decent idea to actually take this film into a new direction. But there was a concerns up to its release, given the fact that Pixar was going to do a princess movie set in Scottish mythology. Now, there is nothing wrong with doing a princess movie. However, what you can lean too much into is how Disney have treated their princesses for a long time. Yeah, if you do not know, princess movies throughout history has been pretty mixed when it comes to reputation afterwards, because most of them has been criticized for making women weak or be nothing, not worthy of getting anything or something like that. Well, this movie, I don't really know how this movie would actually end up being if it was the original version, because this movie actually, like I said, it's an interesting concept. Okay, so the movie itself was getting mixed reviews, although most of them were positive. But in the end, it was actually able to, earn over $500 million worldwide against a budget under $100 million, but over 50 million. That's all I'm gonna say. So yes, okay, so this film starts off with a flashback scene involving the two main characters, as well as a third distant main character that is known as which is known as Queen Eleanor. She's the Queen of Scotland, and she's got a daughter as well, known as Merida, and she's got a father as well, like most people do, and its name is Fergus. And they're a happy family, or at least that's what you're saying. So anyway, it's her birthday, and because her dad is more of a Viking than an actual king, she gets a bow for a birthday present, the little daughter Merida. And even though Queen Eleanor doesn't really approve of it due to Eleanor being more of a queen than a fighter, she is allowed to keep it. And after like trying to shoot with it and failing, then going to get the arrow, she sees like we will o' the wisps, which is according to Scots mythology meant to like show your destiny. But then when she's out there, there's a bear attacking their campsite. I don't know if they're actually setting up a camp or whatever, but essentially they're just relaxing somewhere, and then a bear attack, and then her dad Fargus goes out to try to kill this bear. Now it's not really explicitly stated who this bear might be. I mean, the villain of this film, like the actual villain that shows up later, is a bear, but I don't know if that bear is actually like the bear that we see in this scene. It might be, might not be, but regardless of what, we don't actually know how this battle ended, although I think we can surmise that Fargus got a replacement leg, that being one made out of wood, because we're jumping like many years later, like 10 years or so, maybe like 15. So at this point, Merida has become like, I don't know if she's like an older tween, an older teen or a young adult, but whatever her age is, her life has changed over these years. She is now going to become a true royalty, because if you do not know, this film is actually set at the time period, the old mythologies when kingdoms start to be established with a king and queen, and it's actually interesting to like set this at a time period that's actually correct. And as you can probably predict, it's not really going too well for Merida, that is. We understand early on that they're completely different from one another, that being Queen Eleanor and Merida. And we see a montage happening where Merida is super exhausted, not really want to do this. Eleanor forces her to do this regardless. Yeah, you can definitely tell that this is not something that neither parties, you can definitely tell by Merida talking and seeing all this that she doesn't really approve of any of this, but she have to because it's her mom, and her mom, well, you can understand from watching this scene that she is not joking around about this. She's serious, although she's not serious as in like getting ready for fight and this is serious. Like, she is like extremely stale, and she's not really funny in the slightest. Now, I would say that these types of characters can be rather boring if they're written poorly, but thankfully, like, you at least are engaged in how Queen Eleanor actually like teaches her. And to be fair, she tries her hardest, but it doesn't really work out that well. So anyway, aside from her forcing her daughter to become a queen, she actually has 3 kids, which I cannot really remember their names, but they're simply Scottish names. I don't know, really remember what they are. So anyway, they are free-spirited, just like Merida wants to be, as they are simply as quiet, small boys who runs around and doing mischief. They're not really that relevant to the plot, although they do appear occasionally, although they're not really like MacGuffins, if you know what I'm saying, like the main plot or like the main driving force or anything. So anyway, after everything being established with the relationship between Merida and Eleanor, we get to see a montage of Merida having a day off, and she's like loving it. She's quickly shown in this montage with the soundtrack that plays, which honestly isn't very good, not that memorable. I cannot really remember much about the soundtrack, but anyway, so we're shown here in this scene that she is an expert at everything wildlife, or at least when it comes to like warfare. She can ride a horse named Angus, and she can also shoot arrows into a board with many arrows in it, and it's shown in this scene that she is skilled at this. She has done it many times before, and then you're seeing that she's like drinks water of a waterfall, which is supposedly like a real place, a place in real life, whereas the sun is shining upon that waterfall, and then when it does shine, it looks like gold, and it's supposed to bring you good luck or fortune or something. Now that montage lasts for like 2 minutes. 2 minutes is not enough for a montage. You know, if you want to have a good montage, either make it, okay, well, it's not exactly a montage, but it's more of a scene which is supposed to be establishing Merida. Now, thankfully, the dialogue is what carries her personality during the beginning, during the monologue. However, this montage is just extremely short. I mean, it doesn't really look. It looks great. It looks pretty. There's nothing wrong with the graphic itself, with the animation. However, what doesn't really work out that well is the fact that it's just so short. I mean, we hardly see anything more than just Merida enjoying life. We see like she's standing in the waterfall, but does she do something more, or does she just doing that every day? Well, we don't really know, and we will not really find out more. We will really not find out. However, and while we're at the topic of Angus, the horse, sorry, so Swedish. Anyway, so what about Angus? What's its backstory? When did she get it? Well, we don't know either, because he's never really told anything about Angus other than him being her own horse. Now, is that good or bad? I don't really know. It's just kind of weird. So anyway, we're heading back into the castle now, and Merida... Wait a second. Did that last over a day, or did it last like a few hours? No, if I were to guess right, I guess it lasts until sunset. So anyway, she's making back to the castle after having tons of fun, and while it's time for dinner, she snatches an apple, and and then throws it away upon entering the dining room. So anyway, at this point in the story, there hasn't really been much development or growth or whatever. No establishment of like the main plot. Now, here's where things get interesting, or at least it moves the story forward, because an actual like idea of a story is starting to be formed, and it is the fact that Queen Eleanor has been sending out letters around Scotland for several kingdoms to forge and to like build up one united kingdom. and she had and the way that works, based on what I've seen in this movie, maybe history as well, is that one of 3 suitors is going to be chosen to marry Merida. And once they are chosen, a kingdom can be forged, and to like mend them become like one, like I said, united kingdom. Merida doesn't really approve of it. She hates it. She doesn't want to, which, yeah, we can probably understand why. She's like a teen. Teens are energetic. They want to get out. They want to live life. Believe me, I've been a teen. Yeah, so she's not really approving, and Merida even says to her mom, sounds Scottish. Anyway, so she says to her mom that she was at this waterfall, and it brings you, and it is wonderful and beautiful, and Eleanor doesn't really care about it. She just said like, okay, fine. Like, she could simply just say that I jumped today, and it would be like the same reaction. Yeah, as you can tell, she doesn't really care much about what Merida has to say or do. She's more or less focused on her duty as a queen, and to like do whatever she must to keep the kingdoms happy. So anyway, it turns out only Fergus is like into it, right? Because they're pretty similar, both Fergus and Merida. And he says that, oh, it brings you good luck, or whatever it was. And he's impressed by it. And yeah, that is nice, at least someone cares. Okay, so, like I said, the letters has arrived, and the suitors are coming to the kingdom for... I don't know how long it actually takes for them to get there. But anyways, Merida does not approve of it, which I just said. So we cut to the next scene, which all of the suitors are now arriving to the kingdom. And the way that they're supposed to choose a suitor is that they will compete in different events and then prove that they're worthy for Merida to choose. And given the fact that this is a must, she have to choose. This is quote unquote destiny for this, or her destiny in this film, that she have to choose a suitor, and she doesn't really want to. So anyway, the next day as the next day arrives, Merida and company are now getting ready. And what I find weird is that no one else in this kingdom, or at least like the family members, they don't really dressing up differently. It's just Merida that has to. Why? There isn't like any finer clothes for the other men to wear. Yeah, it's not really explained why that is. But let's just assume that they're formally dressed at all times, but Merida isn't. So anyway, Merida gets a cliche, I can't breathe. Cliche that we've heard or seen before. And it's not really that funny. But Queen Eleanor hangs a necklace around Merida's neck, which pay attention to that later because it will show up. Okay, so anyway, I forgot to mention where in the previous scene before that, when it's nighttime and when it's like everyone has their own free time, Merida is like shoving shit for Angus, which I think kind of interesting to see that a girl is actually doing that, and she just rages out everything that she feels about all of this onto him and not to her mother. And the mother is doing the same to her husband. Although I do really feel like it's a bit uneven when it comes to like which one has the most advantage when it comes to actually listen, because Merida has her horse that listens to her, although they cannot understand speech, and Queen Eleanor, she has her husband, that being Fergus, and she can live. So Eleanor, yes, she lets off all of her feelings on him, whereas Merida does it to a horse. And I feel like Eleanor has the advantage. But who am I to say? Maybe Merida is doing well with that horse. Okay, so this scene where they're conversing, they're trying to talk to each other through their communicating partners. Like Queen Eleanor wants to take her stance on this and say her reasons as to why she wants to do this to Fergus, whereas Merida lets off her emotions at Angus. Yes, I'm sorry for repeating myself a lot. Yeah, so that scene honestly is pretty decent. It's mostly because you can actually see their two different stances, and no one is right or wrong on this. They're having both different stances, and they're both thinking like, oh, I want this had to be done. I mean, one is thinking like this had to be done by traditions, and the other have to be done because, well, yeah, she just wants to be a free spirit and she doesn't want anyone to decide over her what she's going to do in life. Alright, so the next day appears. And the students are all coming, like I said. And now, here's where the thing starts. There's like a mini Olympics, if I were to call it that, whereas everyone has like playing games, or more or less as playing power games to prove that they are the best ones to actually marry Merida. And Merida, she's supposed to be there and observe everyone to choose the suitor. Queen Eleanor turns over to it's Fergus who turns over to Merida's chair and laugh alongside her. However, she has placed one of the royal dogs on her chair, and by the way, if you do not know, they're sitting on like thrones. So anyway, the dogs are there instead of Merida. Well, that's because she has gone on to a different place to dress up in her own casual dress, because she wants to be in control of all this. She wants to decide, and she chooses archery. And naturally, archery is the one thing that she's good at, and Eleanor doesn't really approve of it since she doesn't, for some reason, want Merida to do archery. So anyway, so now here comes one of the most interesting scenes of this film, if not the most interesting scene, and it's that, Merida is quite capable of shooting a bow and shooting with a bow and arrow. We know that since then. And during this scene, she fires one arrow on three boards, on three targets. Now, that is something that the men are impressed by, but Queen Eleanor does not approve. And for every target that Merida hits with his arrow, she approaches step by step until everyone everyone cheers on Merida after hitting the last one, and she's ecstatic. She's okay. Well, she's not ecstatic, but she's proud of herself because she was able to get things how she wanted for once. She actually won ills in her own head. But as we all know, things go down the shitter as Queen Eleanor stares at her face. Merida does the same with Queen Eleanor's face, and they're both raging everything out at each other. They're like mad. They essentially explode inside to unload all their emotions. And yeah, this next scene is more or less just them bringing up they're terrible towards each other. They're not really conversing in any sense, which is understandable considering Merida has been suppressed has been patient for a while now with Queen Eleanor's plans. So Merida takes a sword, and Eleanor just says to her that you listen to me, young lady. Like, she doesn't want to listen to Merida, her doesn't want to listen to her either. And it goes so far to the point where Merida tears the family tapestry in half between her and Queen Eleanor. And Queen Eleanor gets pissed to the point where she throws Merida's beloved bow that she got from her father many years ago into the fire as it starts burning. Merida cries and leaves, and Queen Eleanor realizes what she's done wrong. She then tries to take it back. Doesn't really work out, or it works, but the bow is damaged to the point where it's no longer usable. And that was actually a pretty decent scene, because you can definitely tell that they don't care about each other's feelings at this point. And after this, Merida runs out of the castle, somehow riding on Angus. I don't really know how she actually got there sane, because she seemed to be pretty upset, and she was simply just crying. How did she even get on there? Oh well. Okay, so we're now taking a break from the castle Dunbroch. That has been their home castle, the location we spend the most time with. And now they just keep on running until Merida notices Will of the Wisps, and and Angus is slowing down so they can follow it calmly, and they follow it until when they get to hedgestones, to a formation of the hedgestones that is on Påskön and those. They are forming a circle, and for some reason Angus doesn't want to come with Merida, so she follows the trail herself. And the Will of the Wisps, she keeps following them and arrives at a hut. When she eventually does arrive into the hut, she opens the door, and then a Whoopi Goldberg contraption is activated. One of these hobby machines that you can one mechanic activates the other, and then the other, and then the other, until a final goal. Now that happens, and then a witch appears, and she's claimed to be a wood carver, because she has a lot of carvings of bears and such, and the ambiguous Pizza Planet truck, which it's kind of odd that it's there, but it's just Pixel likes to throw the reference, so it's good, but it just contradicts what time period this takes place in. Anyway, so she tries to disguise herself as being a woodcarver when it's real that she's a witch through a crow, and then for out of nowhere, Merida asks her if she can develop something to change her mom. Now, change her mom, what exactly does that mean? Well, it's not really explained what she actually means to change her mom, because at this point it has more or less just been seen as Merida's destiny to do her mom's will, her mom's will, and to actually become what she wants Merida to become. But what does even change my mom even means? Yeah, anyway, it doesn't really go. It does happen. Merida had to pay with her pendant that they returned a necklace that was really rare and expensive. I don't really know what relation that was to her mom, but whatever. She gains that from her mom, and she gives it to the witch, and then the witch develops something that's going to quote unquote change my mom. And that is something that it's just weird when you really think about it, why exactly that came to be. And that thing is known as a cake. Cake? Why? I don't really have no idea. You would think that it would be more like a potion, or like, yeah, it would be more like a potion, maybe an object or something. Why a freaking pastry? And the pastry just looks like a hallongrotta. If you do not know what a hallongrotta is, I will put up this picture on screen right now. It's essentially a cake that has like a very like dough that crumbles easily, and then you form it into like a little bowl size, and within that little bowl area, like you're putting strawberry jam or raspberry jam in it, or like any sort of berry jam. It's actually pretty tasty. Try it. So yeah, it becomes a raspberry cave or hallongrotto, however you want to say it. And then Merida is forced out of the cottage because, well, she's done and she doesn't really have anything to do with there. Okay, so far this story has been fairly consistent, which bringing a mystery. Merida has now the cake, and she now rides back to the castle Dambroch, and it is still the day of the coronation, almost nighttime now, and all of the men of this film has now returned into the castle to like have a little feast and celebrate and such. Can I just say this? I will not really judge by any means of any stretch of imagination. I'm just wondering, what even is it with like media today, or at least in this film, where it portrays the women to be powerful and the men just complete cowards or weaklings? I don't really get it. Is that something that's been like the case? It's because women back in the day were treated carelessly, yeah, it's not really. I don't really understand why that is these days. But anyway, they're celebrating, and Merida heads back into the castle after being out, and with Angus. Yeah, we don't really see much of Angus really. I mean, yeah, sure. After the scene where I think she heads back to the castle, either it's not shown or whatever, Merida doesn't actually like. He's not really seen that often, which you should, if you really think about it. Anyway, Merida then meets up with her mom towards the throne room, and Merida and her mother asks where Merida has been, her beloved daughter, and there's actually like a few seconds of like a somber feeling, because Merida starts to think that maybe her mom is turning a new page, that she's going to say, well, you don't have to anymore, dear. And it was actually a pretty decent moment. It was lasting pretty short. It was pretty short. And then when Queen Eleanor says, I love you so much, and then she says, but today we'll do the coronation, and that is where Merida's switch clicks in the direction she was heading to first. She hands over the cake that she has been preparing to her mom, and so Merida says, and so Queen Eleanor says like, a cake for me, and yeah, this is a bit of an ambiguous, as if what's the point of Eleanor of eating this cake, especially since Merida says that she has made it for her, but where? I mean, she ran away from the castle. Here's the thing though. Queen Eleanor doesn't really question where she went or how she made it. She like eats a piece of it, and well, even if she made it or not, I don't think she would turn it down for her daughter. And she takes a piece of it with her fork. Yeah, seriously, it's a pastry with a fork. If any of you watching right now, it's pastries with a fork, stop it. Eat it with your hands. Well, okay, unless it's like a Swedish pastry. If it's another pastry that isn't Swedish, do whatever you do. Just remember this. Just eat pastries with your hands, or maybe not. Anyway, so she takes a piece of it with her fork, and then things starts to change. There's actually something starting to actually change with the story, because as soon as Queen Eleanor takes a bite of this cake, she does not feel good It's not really obvious. It's not really stated if she thought that if she was just an unexpected taste, or if it was just bad. But whatever the case may be, Queen Eleanor just reacts very strangely. Like this is like, I can only assume there's maybe some type of poison within it, or like a minor potion or whatever. Well, whatever the taste may be, Queen Eleanor says it's an interesting flavor, dear. And however, she then throws it aside, drinks a jug of water, and then tries to get and then pretends that everything is okay. Now, here's where another interesting scene, which is honestly as someone that extremely satisfying to watch. Okay, so Merida and Eleanor now heads into the throne room to like do the coronation, or like, well, whatever it is. I don't know what the name is in English, if it's not one or not. Anyway, so as soon as she enters, Queen Eleanor starts to like burp and have like, bleh! Like she doesn't really throw up. She's more or less just disgusted by the contents of the cake. So she's more like, ugh. And she like doesn't start to feel great. I mean, she tries to have a nice, she tries to stay strong, but eventually it fails. And her and Merida have to go to bed, and she needs to get some rest. Now, I actually like to see him because it shows that Queen Eleanor has like something is changed within her, and the fact that her posture changes because she has been standing like this all along, you know. Merida has had a pretty like this kind of posture, while Queen Eleanor has been very formal and formal with her posture. Just to see her posture change that quickly, it's honestly satisfying, and to also see this reaction. So anyway, here's where the film movie completely changes trajectory. So Queen Eleanor like lies down in bed. Merida beds her, and Merida considers this to be a success, that she has been able to change her mom. But here's where the movie gets not really that good. It's mostly because Queen Eleanor turns into a bear. Yeah, there's nothing more to say about it. Yeah, all of a sudden, you know the Brother Bear film that was made by Disney in 2003. Yeah, the people has been joking about that, saying that this movie also turned into Mother Bear. I shall not really complain much about it. Well, okay, that really all depends if you know about the film or not. But basically, at a scene where I forgot to mention until now, there was a short film, like a little like history lesson, describing that there is a bear around the kingdom named Mordu, who is like the bad guy of this film, and he roams around the kingdom. It's a pretty dangerous bear. Due to the incarnation, the original guy who was a human, he wanted more power, but that lust for power didn't really turn out that well. So now Mordu roams around the kingdom freely, and no one really dares to attack it. There has been attempts, but no one has really succeeded. So at this point, Queen Eleanor has become a bear, and Merida instantly gets pissed. Not because of her own mistakes, but because she thinks, well, blame the witches, it's her fault. And so now they have to get out of the castle and get back to the witch to hopefully make things right. And so she calls upon, and so her three brothers that shows up decide to show up and help them out. And so they're working together to like form like a fake bear trap. Yeah, to distract men from the bear, because Vargas has like starting to feel the scent of a bear because he's just horny for bears. So they're forming like a little distraction by using like a chicken on a stick and then making noises, bear sounds. And so they're all chasing after the bear, this supposed bear, which doesn't really exist, or at least at that moment. And it's thanks to this that they're able to escape, like the castle, like Merida and Queen Eleanor. Now, at a few seconds of this happening, Queen Eleanor thinks that she's naked and that she's a regular bear and such. It's actually kind of a funny scene, but it's simply has changed because I completed the different movie. After they have escaped, that is when the tone changes. It becomes more of a fun film instead of like a deep emotional film with the relationship doesn't really work out well. Okay, so after that, the men simply just get stuck on the rooftop, on the roof after they have been tricked by the kids, who's now by themselves to lock it, which means that they have now that, which means they have to get down in another way. Okay, so now we're cutting to Merida and Queen Eleanor, essentially like finding the witch's cottage, but she's not there, she's elsewhere, and they really try to pull like one of those scenes in the 90s Disney movies where shit's going down for the main character, where the big plot forwarding thing happens. Like for instance, in The Little Mermaid, Ariel becomes a human, and in Aladdin, gets trapped inside the Cave of Wonders. That is the same kind of scene that happens. Whereas Merida cannot really find the witch because she's away somewhere. Merida tries to use a potion to like contact her, but the contact fails and it like explodes and such. Now it's at this point where they learn that if Queen Eleanor isn't changed back to a bear within 3 days, she will be a bear for all eternity. Now that creates some stakes to this story, and now for the rest of this film, or at least until towards the end, Merida tries to stay true to her sayings about all this, like it's the witch to blame and not me because she made this. However, then I was going to ask a question. Merida was the one that wanted to change her mom, and the witch only helped if Merida didn't want mom to change. Then she wouldn't really like help her out. So yeah, it creates a minor conflict because Merida don't want to actually get the blame for this, even though she technically did something, but the witch helped. So yeah, Merida just wanted to change her mom, and now she has. But is this really what she wanted to do? Well, that's not really certain. Alright, so naturally, Queen Eleanor as a bear is now pissed at her daughter, and they have to essentially set up a shelter for the night while it rains. And so the next morning, Queen Eleanor tries to be like proper, set up breakfast even though she's a bear. It's not really going that well. And so here comes a scene where Merida and Queen Eleanor tries to like get along, like they are having a slight bit of fun because like they're helping each other out. Merida is trying to teach Queen Eleanor to fish and to like live wildlife, whereas Queen Eleanor wants to like teach her to be more proper. And it's a nice dynamic, it works decently well. However, at some point when they're out somewhere, all of a sudden Queen Eleanor's instinct changed to be less of a human and more of a predator. She likes, what is it called? She roars at Merida like a bear and she gets terrified. No, she's not running away or anything. However, it is at this point where things are starting to happen. And towards a later point, they're also discovering that they're also finding like a location where Mordu is, and later on the main goal of this movie, at least based on what I will think as the audience, is to, you remember that tapestry that I mentioned, the one that Merida tore? Yeah. That is going to seemingly become the main conflict of this film, or like the main thing. Now that Mordu is out chasing about in Scotland, at least it's interesting. Like, not as creatures in film that's like non-human tend to be some of the most interesting creatures out there, and so it's really like Merida thinks that they have to sew the tapestry together, even though then we don't really know that if that is the case or not. But we can assume that maybe that is right. Okay, so towards the later end of this movie, I'm not gonna go through everything because I want you to watch the movie for yourself. So anyway, it's really during like the last third of this film when the story actually gets good, because the actual Mordu attacks the kingdom whilst to actually like kill all the men, whereas Queen Eleanor appears as a bear and essentially just attacking Mordu, and together with the corporation she's able to crack a pillar like the Stonehenges where or like the Stonehenge or whatever they are, which kills Mordu by impact. And you know, after that, the evil spirit of Mordu leaves, which means that he's defeated. However, they don't really realize it, but they don't. However, there's still like the plot line that Merida has to turn back her mother back to normal, and unfortunately, even though she sued the tapestry back together, it feels as though she has failed. That she can no longer like become a human. Merida starts crying and admits to herself that it was her own fault. Now that is a great growth for Merida's character, because throughout this film she wanted to deny that she actually like go through all of this, and she was like the one to blame. But you know, it's great character growth. Also throughout this film, they're able to get partly back into the castle, and Merida can like perform a speech, which actually means a lot. And then somehow they decide to involve Fargus within the last third, because she locks Merida into a dungeon, into her room, because the bear running about is Queen Eleanor, but he doesn't know that or think that. So yeah, so yeah, that was like Brave. Yeah, I know I like didn't went through everything, but here's the thing though. I mainly wanted to focus on the beginning parts of this film, you know, the one that everyone remembers this movie for. Because this movie is actually it's not half bad. I mean, yeah, sure, it's not great. It's I agree with the most people that it's not one of the Pixar's greatest. Now I did bought this film on DVD back like 2015 or 16. I did say that it was the best Pixar movie out there. Now the best original Pixar movie that I've seen. Now at the time I hadn't really like watched Monsters Inc. yet, and I don't remember Cars being a great movie. So I was sort of contradicting myself. Now I think that Brave is not a great film, but it isn't terrible either. To be fair, there were some great ideas there were some neat ideas with this film that unfortunately never came to be, mainly because of executive meddling. Essentially, basically, the original director of this film, a woman, was fired from Pixar, and it went through several directors until they could actually find one which didn't really understand the message behind this film, what it was actually meant to be. He kept repeating that it's not a princess movie, and then he ended up doing so. He ended up making one, because I don't really think he truly understood this film. And to be fair, I may not be the representative, but I think that it's kind of hard to write a film around destiny, since the idea of destiny is just so vague. It's the same with time traveling films, whereas it's kind of hard to actually make these time traveling films justice, and the same with destiny. These like two topics of films that you really have to put some hard work into actually like make sense. So yeah, in the end, Brave unfortunately lives in infamy. Do I think this film is absolutely terrible? No. It's far from terrible. It's just not really that great either. But here's the thing though. The idea behind Destiny could work. But the problem is that there is no real clear direction for what Destiny can truly be in Brave. Like, we don't know what this marriage will actually mean. I mean, yeah, sure, we know that it's going to mean... We don't really know what this marriage would be like. Or maybe if they went through with the marriage, maybe that would be a different story. Who knows? That is just too vague to play around with Destiny. The same with Frozen 2. And maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do a video on that later. Alright, so that was it for this discussion video. Let me know what you thought of Brave in the comments. And have a nice day. And I will see you next time. Bye bye.